Hey there, I'm Zoe Bennett, 35 years old. And I'll never forget the day my family's mocking faces turned to stunned silence. Picture me standing in a soaked, fancy dress, water dripping from my hair after my own dad pushed me into a garden pond at my sister's wedding. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I held a secret they didn't know. They had no clue who I really was or who I'd married. The giggles, whispers, and pointing fingers were about to vanish forever. Before I dive into this wild story, where are you reading from? If you've ever felt like the odd one out in your family, hit that like button and follow along. What happened next flipped my life upside down. And I'm sharing every detail. Twists, betrayals, and all to show how I turned pain into power. Buckle up. It's a long, thrilling ride full of surprises. Growing up in the super-rich Bennett family of San Francisco meant everything had to look perfect, no matter what. Our massive 10-bedroom mansion in Pacific Heights screamed money to the world. Its tall windows and marble steps made neighbors jealous, but behind those shiny glass doors, life was cold. From my earliest memories, I was always compared to my younger sister, Clara, who was 2 years younger but always the star. "Why can't you be more like Clara?" was the song my parents, Charles and Margaret Bennett, sang over and over. My dad, a top lawyer for big tech companies, cared only about how things looked. My mom, a former beauty queen turned fancy event planner, never missed a chance to say I wasn't good enough. When I got straight A's in school, Clara got straight A's and won dance competitions. When I took second in a coding contest at 15, Clara's violin recital stole the show that same weekend. It never stopped, and it was no accident. "Zoe, stand up straight. Nobody trusts a sloucher." My mom would snap at family dinners when I was just 12, her eyes sharp like knives. "Clara moves like a dream," she'd add, patting my sister's shoulder with a proud smile. "You've got to try harder to matter." I'd nod, biting my lip, hoping next time I'd be enough. At my 18th birthday party, I sat at our long dining table, waiting as my dad raised his wine glass for a toast. My heart raced, hoping maybe this time they'd see me. Instead, he cheered Clara's acceptance into a top summer arts program at Stanford, his voice booming with pride. My birthday cake stayed forgotten in the kitchen, not even brought out. I cut it myself later alone, the chocolate frosting tasting like tears. When I was 14, I built a robot for a school science fair, programming it to solve puzzles. It won first place in the district, but at dinner my dad barely glanced at my trophy. "Clara's dance team made nationals," he said, passing the mashed potatoes. "That's real talent." My mom nodded, her earrings sparkling under the chandelier. "Zoe, you should take up something graceful like Clara." I stopped bringing my awards home after that, hiding them in my closet where they wouldn't be ignored. High school was more of the same. I joined the debate team, hoping to shine in a way they couldn't overlook. I won regional championships, but my parents never came to a single match. They were always at Clara's theater rehearsals or her charity fundraisers, clapping like she was a movie star. Once, I overheard my mom on the phone with her friend saying, "Zoe's smart, but she's no Clara. Clara's got that spark, you know?" I stood frozen in the hallway, my debate trophy heavy in my hands, wondering why my spark was invisible. College didn't make things better. I worked hard at UC Berkeley, keeping a perfect 4.0 GPA while juggling a part-time job at a cozy cafe near campus. I loved the smell of coffee and the quiet moments when I could study between orders. My parents barely came to my events, a coding hackathon, a criminology presentation, but they flew across the country to see every one of Clara's theater shows at Juilliard. At my graduation, I stood in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd for them. They arrived late, and my mom's only comment was about my practical choice to study criminology. "At least you're not chasing dreams you can't catch," she said with a tight smile, her eyes already on her phone. Meanwhile, Clara's drama degree was called Brave and Passionate. The little hurts kept coming like paper cuts that never healed. By my late 20s, I was done trying to win their love. While training at the FBI Academy in Virginia, I decided to keep my life private. The academy was tough, grueling drills, late-night studies, and tests that pushed my brain to its limits, but I thrived. I stopped sharing my wins, skipped family holidays when I could, and built walls taller than our mansion's stone fence. What they didn't know was that my career was soaring like a rocket. I'd found my passion in cyber intelligence, rising fast with my quick brain and never-give-up attitude. By 32, I was leading top-secret missions that my family couldn't even imagine. They thought I was just a boring office worker, filing papers at some government desk. Oh, how wrong they were. My first big case was stopping a hacker group targeting U.S. banks. I worked 18-hour days decoding their tricks and saving millions of dollars. My team called me the ghost because I could slip into systems and find clues no one else saw. When I got promoted to assistant director at 30, my boss, Agent Carter, shook my hand and said, "Zoe, you're rewriting the rulebook." I beamed, but I didn't tell my family. Why bother? They just compare me to Clara's latest Broadway audition. It was during a high-stakes international case that I met Lucas Harper. Not on a mission, but at a global cybersecurity summit in London where I spoke for the FBI. I was nervous standing on a stage with hundreds of tech experts watching, but my speech on stopping cybercrime got a standing ovation. Lucas approached me after, his green eyes bright with interest. He wasn't just any tech guy. He'd built Harper Tech from his college dorm into a billion-dollar empire, protecting governments and businesses from hackers worldwide. When we met, it was like fireworks, sudden and bright. "Your speech was incredible, Zoe," he said, his voice warm. "You're doing work that changes the world." I blushed and used a praise that felt so real. We started talking first about tech, then about everything: movies, hiking, our dreams. On our fourth date, walking along the San Francisco Bay under a starry sky, he said, "You're incredible, Zoe. I hope you know how special you are." Those words filled a hole my family had carved out over years. Lucas saw me, not Clara's shadow or my family's disappointment. He told me about his own struggles, growing up in a small town with big dreams, proving everyone wrong. We clicked like two puzzle pieces finally fitting. We got married 18 months later in a quiet ceremony on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. Just us, my best work friend, Emma, and Lucas's sister, Olivia. The waves crashed below, and the sunset painted the sky orange and pink. Keeping our marriage secret wasn't just about our jobs, though safety was a big deal in my line of work. I wanted something pure, untouched by my family's poison. For 3 years, we built a life together, balancing my climb to Deputy Director of Cyber Intelligence at the FBI with his global business. We'd spend evenings cooking pasta in our cozy apartment, laughing over silly TV shows, or planning our next adventure. Lucas was my rock, my partner, my home. Then came Clara's wedding invitation, all gold and sparkly, full of expectation. She was marrying Daniel Foster, heir to a tech fortune. The event was set to be the kind of over-the-top show my parents loved, with hundreds of guests and a budget bigger than most people's houses. Lucas was scheduled to be in Singapore closing a huge deal for Harper Tech, one that could secure his company's future in Asia. "I can stay," he offered, seeing the worry in my eyes as I stared at the invitation. "No," I said, squeezing his hand. "This is too important for your company. I'll handle one evening." He promised to try for the reception's end, even if just for a moment, chartering a helicopter to make it possible. The days leading up to the wedding were tense. I hadn't seen most of my family in nearly 2 years, avoiding their calls and texts. My mom left voicemails, her voice sweet but sharp. "Zoe, you will be at Clara's wedding, won't you? It's important for the family." I ignored them, focusing on a new FBI case, a hacker group targeting medical records. But the wedding loomed like a storm cloud. I spent nights pacing our apartment, wondering if I could face their judgment again. Lucas held me close one evening, his voice steady. "You're stronger than they know, Zoe. You don't owe them anything." His words gave me courage, but my stomach still churned. I drove alone to the Grand Ritz-Carlton in San Francisco, my hands tight on the wheel of my sleek black Tesla, one of my few splurges. I hadn't been back to Pacific Heights in years, and the city's foggy streets felt like a maze of old memories. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. A deep emerald dress that hugged my figure, simple silver earrings from Lucas, hair in a smooth updo. I looked strong, successful, untouchable. But inside, I felt like that 12-year-old girl waiting for a kind word that never came. The Ritz's ballroom was like a fairy tale, dripping with white roses and twinkling lights, chandeliers glowing like stars. It was the kind of fancy display my parents lived for, a show of wealth and status. The usher checked my invitation with a tiny frown, his eyes lingering like he wasn't sure I belonged. "Miss Bennett, you're at table 30, he said. "Not with the family, of course." I nodded, expecting it, but the sting was still there. Table 30 was in the back, near the service doors, far from the glittering main table where my parents and Clara would sit. My cousin Sophie spotted me first, her eyes narrowing before she flashed a fake smile. "Zoe, you actually came. We thought you'd skip it." Her gaze flicked to my side, searching for a date. "No plus one, huh?" "Just me," I said, keeping my voice steady, though her words pricked like thorns. "So brave," she said, her tone sweet but sharp. "After that whole mess with that professor who dumped you for his student, right? Aunt Margaret said it crushed you." A complete lie, I'd never dated a professor. But this was the Bennett way, spinning stories to make me the loser. I forced a smile, my FBI training keeping me calm. "Nice to see you too, Sophie," I said, moving past her. More relatives swarmed like bees. Aunt Laura, in a sparkly dress, critiqued my basic hairstyle, saying, "It's smart for someone in your role to skip fashion, Zoe." Uncle George, his voice loud over the music, asked if I was still pushing papers for the government, and if I'd thought about a real job since those don't attract good guys. Their words were like darts, each one aimed to hurt. Clara's best friend, Hannah, the maid of honor, swooped in with air kisses that missed my cheeks. "Zoe, wow, it's been ages. Cute dress, is it from that outlet mall? You're so good at finding deals." She didn't wait for my reply, her laugh sharp as glass. "Clara was sure you'd bail. You missed the bridal shower, the bachelorette weekend in Napa, and the rehearsal dinner. Every event had clashed with major FBI missions I couldn't talk about. I'd sent expensive gifts, a crystal vase, a spa package, a handwritten card, but I just said, work was crazy." Hannah smirked, her eyes glinting. "Oh right, your secret government job." She air-quoted secret, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Daniel's uncle works at the Pentagon. He says those desk jobs are brutal." I smiled, letting them think I was a nobody. The truth was coming, and it would hit like a tidal wave. My mom appeared, stunning in a silver gown that probably cost more than my car payment. Her perfume, sharp and floral, hit me before her words did. "Zoe, you're here," she said, like I'd traveled across the world. "Clara thought you'd flake again." Her eyes scanned me, hunting for something to criticize. Finding nothing obvious, she settled on, "That green makes you look tired. You should have asked me before picking something so bold." I swallowed the hurt, my voice steady. "I wouldn't miss Clara's big day, Mom." Before I could say more, the bridal party's entrance stole the show. Clara, now Mrs. Foster, floated in on Daniel's arm, her custom gown shimmering with a train so long it needed 2 helpers to carry it. My dad glowed with pride, his eyes locked on her like she was the only person in the room. I couldn't recall him ever looking at me like that. Not once in 35 years. The host led me to table 30, far from the family, with a mix of random cousins, my mom's old book club friend, and elderly relatives who didn't know me. The table was tucked near a corner, half hidden by a pillar, the tablecloth slightly wrinkled compared to the pristine ones up front. "Are you one of the Fosters?" a great-aunt asked, squinting through thick glasses, her voice wobbly. "No, I'm Charles and Margaret's daughter, Clara's sister," I said, forcing a smile. Her eyes widened, her fork pausing mid-air. "Oh, I didn't know they had another daughter." The words hit like a punch, even after years of being erased. I nodded, pretending it didn't hurt, and focused on my salad, the lettuce tasteless in my mouth. Dinner was a parade of fancy dishes, lobster bisque, filet mignon, chocolate mousse, served with endless champagne that sparkled in crystal glasses. From my far-off seat, I watched my family shine at the main table, laughing and toasting without a glance my way. The family photos, taken before I arrived right on time, left me out. I'd driven through traffic to be punctual, but the photographer just shrugged when I asked about it. "They started early," he said, not meeting my eyes. During Hannah's maid of honor speech, she gushed about growing up with Clara, calling her the sister I always dreamed of, erasing me completely. The crowd clapped, their smiles bright, while I sat frozen, my hands clenched under the table. The best man's toast was no better, joking about Daniel joining the Bennett legacy by marrying their perfect star. I stayed calm, sipping water to keep my head clear, my FBI training keeping my emotions in check. Lucas texted, "Landed. Traffic's a nightmare. Today 50 minutes. I exhaled, knowing he was close. As the dancing started, I tried joining a group of cousins swaying to the music, but they closed me out, their circle tightening like a locked gate. Their laughter rang in my ears, sharp and excluding. I slipped to a quiet corner near the bar, checking my watch. Lucas was almost here. My mom approached, her wine glass glinting in the dim light. "You could at least look like you're having fun," she whispered sharply, her breath warm with alcohol. "Your moping is making people talk." "I'm not moping, just watching," I said, keeping my voice even. "Then smile," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "The Fosters are important. Clara's made a perfect match. Don't ruin it." As if I were the problem. "You could have brought someone," she added, her voice low but cutting. "Everyone's asking why you're alone." I didn't mention that my husband's company was worth more than the Foster fortune. That surprise was coming, and it would shake their world. The room hushed as my dad tapped his glass, standing beside a giant ice sculpture of doves, their wings sparkling under the lights. "Today," he began, his lawyer's voice booming like he was in a courtroom, "is the proudest day of my life. My beautiful Clara has married a man beyond my wildest dreams." The crowd chuckled softly, their eyes on him. "Daniel," he said, turning to my new brother-in-law, "you're not just getting a wife but joining a family built on excellence and pride." He raised his glass to Clara, who's never let us down. From her first ballet steps to her Juilliard degree to her charity work that's touched so many lives. My throat tightened, not because I expected a mention, I knew better, but because the message was clear. Clara was their pride and I was their shame. I needed air. The ballroom felt suffocating, the music too loud, the lights too bright. I moved toward the glass doors to the garden, where the pond sparkled under the evening sky, its koi fish gliding like shadows. I was almost there, my heels clicking on the marble floor, when my dad's voice boomed through the microphone. "Running away already, Zoe?" I froze, my heart pounding. I turned slowly. He stood at the front, holding the mic, the whole reception watching. My mom and Clara stood beside him, their faces cold, their eyes judging. "Just getting some air," I said, keeping my voice steady, though my hands trembled. "Sneaking off as usual," he sneered, the mic amplifying his words to echo off the walls. Typical Zoe, dodging family duties. Heat crept up my neck, my cheeks burning under the stares of strangers. "That's not true," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Isn't it?" he shot back, his tone sharp like he was cross-examining a witness. "You skipped half the wedding events, the shower, the bachelorette, the rehearsal dinner. Showed up alone, no date, no effort." The room was silent, every eye on me, their judgment heavy as stone. "I'm sorry my being here alone upset you," I said carefully, trying to keep the peace. "Alone at 35, not a single prospect," he announced, drawing nervous laughs from the crowd. Meanwhile, Clara's landed one of San Francisco's best. The laughter grew, fueled by his performance, like he was starring in his own cruel show. "Dad, please," I said softly, my voice barely audible. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," he snapped, stepping closer, his face flushed with wine and anger. "This is about family success, something you know nothing about." The crowd watched, some whispering, others smirking. My mom's lips curved slightly, Clara's eyes gleamed with quiet glee. "You think we don't see through you?" he went on, his voice rising. "Hiding behind your vague government job, jealous of Clara's achievements. Always the disappointment, always the failure." He was close now, his face twisted with years of resentment, his breath sharp with alcohol. "Dad, stop?" I whispered, feeling the weight of every stare, my heart hammering. "Stop what? Telling the truth? That you'll never be enough." Something inside me snapped, not into anger, but into a strange, clear calm. "You don't know who I am," I said softly, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. "I know exactly who you are," he growled, his eyes blazing. Then it happened. His hands shoved my shoulders hard and sudden, his strength catching me off guard. I stumbled back, my heels slipping on the slick floor, arms flailing as I tried to catch my balance. For a moment I was weightless, the world slowing down. Then icy water hit me like a shockwave as I fell into the garden pond. The cold stole my breath, my dress clinging to my skin, my hair falling loose, my makeup running in streaks. The koi fish darted away, their colors a blur under the water. But worse than the cold was the truth. My own dad had humiliated me in front of everyone, hundreds of guests, family, strangers, all watching. Gasps turned to uneasy chuckles, then loud laughter. Someone yelled, "Diving contest next." Another whistled, sharp and mocking. The photographer snapped away, his flash blinding, capturing my shame for the wedding album. My dad stood proud, his chest puffed out like he'd won a case. My mom had a smirk behind her wine glass. Clara glowed with delight, her perfect day complete. This was their story of me, sealed forever in their minds and in those photos. But in that pond something shifted. The freezing water woke me up. Not just my body but my soul. I was done chasing their love, done taking their cruelty, done hiding who I was. I stood slowly, water pouring off my dress, my shoes squishing as I stepped onto the grass. I looked straight at my dad, my voice clear and strong despite the dripping mess I was. "Remember this moment," I said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Remember how you treated your daughter. Remember what you chose. I'll never forget." His smug look faltered, a spark of doubt flickering in his eyes. The laughter stopped, the room falling silent. My mom's smirk faded, Clara's glee wavered. I climbed out of the pond, dripping but tall, my chin high. I walked through the crowd, their stares following me, but no one spoke, no one helped. For the first time I was okay with that. I didn't need them anymore. In the hotel's fancy bathroom I faced the mirror. Mascara streaked my face like black rivers, my dress was ruined, clinging to me like a second skin, but I felt free. My purse, safe at table 30, held my phone, which buzzed with Lucas's text. 10-minute out. "You okay?" I typed back, my fingers shaking. Dad pushed me into the pond. Everyone laughed. His response was instant. "I'm coming. 5 minutes. Security's there." Lucas had sent a team ahead, always protecting me, always knowing when I needed him most. A young woman entered the bathroom, her heels clicking softly. She was Daniel's cousin, I guessed, her face kind but worried. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. "I'm fine," I said, standing taller, wiping my face with a paper towel. "Just wet." "What your dad did was awful," she said, her eyes wide with shock. "I saw the whole thing. Nobody should be treated like that." Her kindness surprised me, a small light in the dark. "Thanks," I said, my voice soft. "I have a spare dress in my car," she offered. "It might be big, but it's dry." "That's so kind, but I keep a backup in mine," I said, a habit from my job where surprises were common. "Could you walk me to the valet? I don't want to face the crowd." "Sure," she said, smiling warmly. "I'm Mia, Daniel's cousin, kind of the foster family misfit." "Zoe Bennett family outcast," I said, shaking her wet hand. She laughed, and her small act of warmth steadied me, like a hand pulling me from the water. Mia guided me through a side exit to the valet, avoiding the curious stares of the ballroom. The cool night air hit my skin, making me shiver as I grabbed a simple black dress and sneakers from my car's trunk. In a nearby bathroom, I changed in 10 minutes, going from drenched to professional. I fixed my makeup, wiping away the streaks, and pulled my hair into a neat bun. As I looked in the mirror, I thought of my real life. Top of my class at Quantico, leading missions that saved lives, earning respect from tough agents and top officials, married to a man who loved me for me. None of that came from the people laughing in the ballroom. My worth wasn't in their eyes, it was in the life I'd built, brick by brick against all their doubts. Lucas was moments away. I was ready to stop hiding our marriage, not to show off, but because I was tired of making myself small to fit their story. Mia gave me a nod as I returned to the reception, her smile encouraging. The party was in full swing, dancers twirling under the chandeliers, drinks clinking, laughter echoing. My mom was charming her rich friends at a nearby table, her voice loud over the music. Zoe's always been a challenge. We gave her everything. Top schools, therapy, every chance, but some people just don't shine. Her friend nodded, her diamond necklace glinting. Such a pity with Clara so perfect. Same parents, same chances. My mom sighed dramatically, playing the victim. Charles and I have accepted, Zoe will never. She stopped when she saw me, her eyes widening. She'd expected me to be hiding, maybe crying in a corner. "Zoe, you're dry," she said, her voice faltering. "Always ready," I said coolly, my FBI training keeping my tone steady. Was humiliating me part of the wedding plan? Or did Dad make that up on the spot? Her face flushed, her fingers tightening around her wine glass. "Don't be so dramatic," she hissed, glancing at her friends to make sure they weren't listening. "You were sneaking off as usual. Your dad just got fed up." Pushing me into a pond isn't getting fed up, I said, my voice low but sharp. Maybe if you'd brought someone, cared about Clara's happiness instead of your secret job, things would have gone differently. I looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of love, any hint of regret. There was only annoyance that I dared to challenge her. A commotion at the entrance broke the tension. Car doors slammed outside, and two men in sharp suits swept into the room, my security team, moving with the precision of a well-oiled machine. My mom frowned, her brow furrowing. What's this? Did the Fosters add guards without telling us? I checked my watch, a small smile tugging at my lips. Right on time, I whispered. A sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up outside, its headlights cutting through the fog, flanked by two SUVs. The crowd noticed, their voices fading to a curious murmur. My heart raced, but I stayed calm, my training grounding me. After 3 years of secrecy, my family was about to meet my husband. The ballroom doors swung open wide. Emma and Ryan, my top agents, entered first, their eyes scanning the room with practiced ease. Whispers spread like wildfire. My dad marched over, his face red with anger. "This is a private party," he barked, his voice loud enough to draw more eyes. "The Tech Expo is downstairs." Emma ignored him, speaking into her earpiece with a calm, "Clear. Proceed." Then Lucas stepped in. At 6 feet 4 inches, his tailored suit screamed power, every stitch perfect. His dark hair was mussed from the helicopter ride. His green eyes sharp as they scanned the room. They found me instantly, softening with a private smile that made my heart skip. He moved through the crowd, people stepping aside without realizing why, drawn by his presence. My mom froze as he approached, her wine glass trembling in her hand. "Zoe," he said warmly, taking my hands, his fingers brushing mine in our secret signal. A small gesture that meant "I'm here, you're safe." "Sorry I'm late," he said, his voice steady but warm. "You're perfect," I said, feeling grounded, the chaos of the night fading in his presence. He kissed me softly, a gentle touch that spoke of years of trust, then turned to my mom. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm Lucas Harper, Zoe's husband." Her face flashed with shock, then doubt, then a forced smile. "Husband," she squeaked, her voice high and unsteady. "Zoe never said." 3 years this July, Lucas said smoothly, his tone polite but firm. "We keep our life private for safety." My dad pushed through the crowd, his face redder than before, his tie slightly crooked. "What's this joke?" he demanded, his voice booming. "Hiring guards and an actor to ruin Clara's wedding? Low, Zoe, even for you." Lucas's eyes turned cold. A shift only I noticed, like a storm cloud passing over the sun. "Mr. Bennett," he said calmly, his voice cutting through the noise. "I'm Lucas Harper, CEO of Harper Tech, Zoe, and I have been married for nearly 3 years." My dad's jaw dropped, his eyes darting between us. Harper Tech was a global name, its systems protecting nations and companies from cyber threats. Even he, with his tech clients, knew the name. "That's impossible," he stammered, his confidence crumbling. "We'd know." "Would you?" Lucas asked, his voice sharp now, each word precise. "When have you cared about Zoe's real life? From what I saw tonight, you only tear her down." Clara appeared, her gown glowing under the lights, Daniel trailing behind her. "What's happening?" she demanded, her voice sharp with annoyance. "Who are these people?" "Apparently," my mom said faintly, her hand clutching her necklace, "your sister's married." "That's a lie," Clara snapped, her eyes flashing. "She's making it up to steal my day." Lucas's arm steadied me, his warmth a shield against her venom. "Mrs. Foster, congratulations," he said politely, his manners flawless. "I'm sorry I missed the ceremony, Singapore business. I'm Zoe's husband." His calm made Clara's rudeness stand out, and she blushed, glancing at the curious guests now whispering loudly. "It's true," Daniel's friend shouted from a nearby table, holding up his phone, the screen glowing with a news article. "That's Lucas Harper. Forbes cover, worth $22 billion. The room gasped, a wave of shock rolling through the crowd. My mom grabbed a chair, her legs unsteady, her perfect composure cracking. "Why hide this?" she whispered, her voice almost real, almost human. "When have you ever cared about my successes?" I asked softly, my eyes locked on hers. "When have you cheered for me?" She had no answer, her lips parting but no words coming out. Lucas turned to my dad. His voice low but carrying the weight of truth. I saw you push Zoe into that pond. I heard your cruel words through my team's comms. They were ready to step in, but she stopped them to keep peace at Clara's wedding. That's who she is, stronger, kinder. Better than you deserve. The room was silent, the music fading to a distant hum. If anyone treats her like that again, he added, his voice like ice, I won't be so calm. Emma approached, her face serious. Director Bennett, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. We need you on an urgent case. Whispers exploded. Director? What agency? My dad's confusion deepened, his eyes darting between us. Lucas smiled coldly. Your daughter is the youngest deputy director of cyber intelligence in FBI history. Her work saves millions of lives. The gasps grew louder. Guests leaning forward, phones out, recording the moment. Clara stepped forward, her face pale, her voice shaking. That's not true. Zoe's just... Zoe. Just what? I asked, my voice steady but sharp. The family failure? The scapegoat. She fell silent, her eyes dropping to the floor. Emma handed me a secure tablet, its screen glowing with classified data. I scanned it quickly, my training kicking in, and made a call. Go with option D, but quadruple surveillance on target 1. I'll join in 15 minutes. The quick, confident exchange shook the room, a glimpse of the power I wielded. Lucas checked his watch, his voice calm but urgent. We need to go. Helicopters waiting, and Singapore's on a call. I nodded, then faced my family one last time. Clara, Daniel, I wish you happiness, I said, my voice sincere despite everything. Daniel shook Lucas's hand, his face genuine. An honor, Mr. Harper. Director Bennett. Let's meet again. His kindness surprised me, a small spark in the dark. My parents stood frozen, their perfect world crumbling like sand. Zoe, wait, my dad said, his voice weak, almost pleading. We're your parents. We've always wanted the best for you. I looked at him, seeing the man who'd pushed me into a pond, who'd called me a failure in front of hundreds. No, Dad, I said gently, my voice steady. You haven't. But I don't need your pride anymore. With Lucas and my team, I walked out, my head high. The ballroom buzzed behind us, the Bennett name forever changed. The helicopter waited on the hotel's roof, its blades slicing through the foggy night air. I felt lighter, years of pain left behind in that ballroom. Lucas squeezed my hand as we climbed aboard. You okay? He asked over the roar of the engine. Better than ever, I said, a real smile breaking through. Emma stepped forward, her face serious. Director, the embassy needs you now. Suspicious cyber activity detected in their systems. I looked at Lucas, my heart steady despite the urgency. Real, she said, her eyes sharp. Reroute the chopper to the field office, I ordered. Full brief on arrival. Lucas squeezed my hand again. I'll meet you there after my call, he said. Our life, 2 big careers, total support was my anchor. My mom appeared at the rooftop door, out of breath from running up the stairs, her silver gown catching the moonlight. Zoe, you can't leave like this, she called, her voice shaky. I nodded to Emma for a moment of privacy. I have a crisis, Mom, I said, the chopper's blades drowning out the tremble in my voice. National security doesn't wait. National security, she echoed, stunned, her eyes wide. You're really a director? For 18 months, I said. Assistant director for 2 years before that. Why keep it secret? She asked, her voice breaking. Would you have believed me? I replied softly. Or would you have made it small like always? Her silence was answer enough, her face crumpling as the truth hit. And Lucas, she said, almost a whisper. 3 years married to him? Our life is private for safety, I said. And to keep it safe from your judgment. The pilot signaled, his hand tapping his watch. I have to go, I said, stepping toward the chopper. Will you come back? She asked, her voice raw, a hint of something new, regret maybe. I saw a woman facing her broken illusions, not the cold mom I'd always known. Maybe, I said. If you want to know the real me, not just my titles. I boarded the chopper with Lucas, the door closing behind us. As we lifted off, I saw my mom, small against San Francisco's glittering skyline, her world shaken. The embassy issue was a major cyber attack threat, targeting sensitive diplomatic data. My team worked through the night at the FBI field office, a stark room filled with screens and the hum of servers. I led the charge, decoding patterns and tracing the attack to a server in Eastern Europe. By 4 a.m. we'd stopped it, saving critical systems and earning a quiet nod from my boss over a secure line. "Good work, Director," he said. I smiled, exhausted but proud. Lucas joined me after his call, bringing coffee and a reassuring hug. "Some wedding," he said, loosening his tie, his eyes warm. "Not how I plan to meet your family," I laughed, the tension easing. "Your dad's face when Emma said director was priceless." I grinned. Mom chasing me to the roof felt different. "A start," he said, pulling me close. "Whatever you choose, I'm here." His love real steady was my home. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks after the wedding, I got a chilling email from an anonymous sender. "Director Bennett, you think you're untouchable, but we know your secrets. Step back or everyone learns the truth." My heart pounded, the words glowing on my screen like a warning light. Threats weren't new in my job, but this felt personal, like someone knew me beyond my title. I showed it to Lucas, who called his top security analyst, Rachel, immediately. "We're tracing it now," he said, his jaw tight, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of danger. "No one threatens you and walks away." At the FBI, I briefed my team in a secure room, the walls lined with soundproof panels. Emma dug into the email's origins, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "It's routed through multiple servers. Asia, Russia, South America," she said, her voice tense. "This is professional. Could be the Phantom Syndicate." The Phantom Syndicate was a shadowy group we'd been tracking for months, known for hacking government systems and selling secrets to the highest bidder. Had they followed me to the wedding? Was someone I knew involved? The thought made my skin crawl, a cold dread settling in my chest. I started noticing strange things. Unfamiliar cars lingering near our apartment, odd clicks on my phone during calls, a faint shadow moving past our window late at night. One evening, driving home from the office through San Francisco's foggy streets, I spotted a black SUV tailing me, its headlights too close in my rearview mirror. My pulse raced as I called Emma, my voice calm but urgent. "I've got a tail black SUV, no plates visible. Send a team." She dispatched agents immediately, their cars cutting through the city to intercept. The SUV vanished into a side street, but my instincts screamed danger. Lucas insisted on doubling our security, adding encrypted cameras and a panic button to our home. "I'm not losing you," he said, his eyes fierce, his hand gripping mine. "Not to your family, not to anyone." The next family dinner was at my parents' mansion, a sprawling estate with chandeliers and marble floors. I went partly to keep up appearances, partly to watch for clues. Could someone in my family be tied to the Phantom Syndicate? Clara had been distant since the wedding, her text short and cold, like she was hiding something. My dad was still defensive, his apologies half-hearted, but my mom seemed softer, almost desperate to connect. As we sat at their long dining table, the silverware gleaming under candlelight, I scanned their faces, my FBI training making me notice every detail. The way Clara avoided my eyes, the way my dad's hands fidgeted with his napkin. My dad asked about my work, his tone cautious, like he was testing the waters. "So you really stop bad guys, Zoe?" he said, his fork pausing over his steak. I nodded, keeping it vague, my eyes sharp. "Something like that." My mom chimed in, her voice too bright. "It must be so exciting, all those secrets." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I nodded again, my mind racing. Were they fishing for information? Or was I just paranoid? After dinner, Clara pulled me aside in the garden, the same garden where I'd fallen into the pond weeks before. The air was cool, the flowers glowing under soft lights. "I'm sorry," she said, twisting her wedding ring, her voice low. "I was jealous, okay? I didn't know how big your life was. I thought I was the only star." Her eyes were wet, her face softer than I'd ever seen it. But I stayed guarded, the memory of her glee at the wedding still fresh. "Thanks for saying that," I said, my voice neutral. "But trust takes time." She nodded, but as she turned to walk away, her phone lit up with a text. I caught a glimpse. "She's clueless. Move forward." My heart stopped, my breath catching. Was Clara involved with the syndicate? I texted Emma immediately. "Check Clara's phone records. Urgent." The next day, Emma called, her voice tense. Clara's clean, but her phone's been hacked. Someone's intercepting her messages, spoofing her number to send texts. My stomach dropped. The Phantom Syndicate was closer than I thought, using my sister's phone to throw me off. I told Lucas, who moved us to a safe house that night, a hidden cabin in the redwoods outside San Francisco. Just until we sort this out, he said, his voice steady but his eyes worried. That evening as we packed, I found a photo in my purse, a picture of me in the pond, taken at the wedding, the moment of my humiliation frozen in time. On the back in Sharpie, "We're watching." I showed Lucas, my hands shaking. "They were there," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "At the wedding." The safe house was a sleek, hidden cabin surrounded by towering trees, their shadows dancing in the moonlight. It was equipped with top-notch security, cameras, motion sensors, a direct line to the FBI. My team worked around the clock, tracing the Phantom Syndicate's moves, their screens glowing in the dim cabin. Mia, Daniel's cousin, called to check in, her voice warm but concerned. "I heard about the threats," she said. "Daniel told me. He's worried about you." Her kindness felt real, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone close was leaking info. I asked Emma to dig into the wedding guest list, cross-referencing it with known syndicate contacts. A week later, we got a break. Emma traced the email to a low-level hacker in Seattle, hired by the syndicate to send the threat. Under questioning, he cracked, revealing they'd targeted me because of my role in stopping their latest hack, a $500 million cryptocurrency heist. But the photo? That came from someone at the wedding, someone who'd been close enough to slip it into my purse. "We're close," Emma said, her eyes sharp. "We'll find them." That night, Lucas and I sat by the cabin's fireplace, the flames casting shadows on the walls. "I'm proud of you," he said, his voice soft. "You're facing this head-on, no fear." I leaned into him, grateful for his strength, but the photo burned in my mind. Who at the wedding hated me enough to work with criminals? The next morning, Emma called with a lead. "We found a connection," she said. "One of the caterers at the wedding was paid to slip the photo into your purse. He's tied to a syndicate operative posing as a guest." My heart raced. I remembered a waiter at table 30, a quiet man with sharp eyes who'd lingered too long near my chair. We tracked him down, arresting him in a sting operation at a downtown diner. He confessed, naming the operative, a man I vaguely remembered from the wedding, sitting at table 30, his face unremarkable but his presence now chilling. We raided the operative's apartment, finding files on me, my FBI cases, my home address, even photos of Lucas and me. The syndicate had been watching for months, but the case wasn't over. 2 weeks later, Emma uncovered a bigger twist. The operative wasn't working alone. He'd been hired by someone closer, someone with access to the wedding's inner circle. After digging deeper, we found the source. Sophie, my cousin, the one who'd mocked me at the reception. She'd been struggling with debt, her boutique business failing, and the syndicate had offered her a way out, $50,000 to pass information about me. She'd been at table 30, close enough to slip the photo into my purse herself, her fake smile hiding her betrayal. When we confronted her, she broke down, sobbing. "I didn't know they'd hurt you," she said, her voice shaking. "I just needed the money." My heart ached, not just for her betrayal, but for the family ties that kept breaking. We turned her over to the authorities, her arrest quiet to avoid more scandal. The syndicate's San Francisco cell was dismantled, their leaders exposed, but I stayed vigilant. My family, unaware of the danger, kept reaching out, their attempts at connection growing more genuine. My mom invited us to a charity gala, her first big event since the wedding gossip spread like wildfire. "We want you there, Zoe," she said on the phone, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. "Both of you." I hesitated, my trust still fragile. Lucas encouraged me. "You set the rules," he said, his hand warm on mine. "If they cross a line, we walk." So we went, dressed in our best, flanked by discreet security. The gala was at a grand museum, its halls filled with art in San Francisco's elite. My parents greeted us warmly, almost too warmly, introducing us to their friends. "This is our daughter Zoe and her husband Lucas Harper," my mom said, her smile nervous but proud. For once I felt seen, but I stayed cautious, my eyes scanning the crowd. Clara was there, quieter than usual, with Daniel. During a slow dance, she pulled me aside to a quiet corner. "I'm trying, Zoe," she said, her voice low. "I know I was awful. I was jealous, raised to think I had to be the best. Can we start over?" Her eyes were sincere, but the memory of that hacked text kept me guarded. "Maybe," I said, my voice soft but firm. "It'll take time." As the gala ended, Emma texted, "New lead. Daniel's cousin Ethan is linked to the syndicate. He was at the wedding." My heart sank. Ethan, another cousin, had been at table 30, quiet but watchful. I remembered him asking odd questions about my job, his smile too sharp. We confronted him the next day in a secure FBI room, his face pale as Emma laid out the evidence. Bank transfers, encrypted emails, even a burner phone. He'd been feeding the syndicate details about my movements, thinking it was just business. "I didn't know they'd threaten you," he said, his voice shaking. "I thought it was just information." Another betrayal, another family tie broken. We arrested him, the weight of it heavy on my shoulders. Months later, family dinners got easier, though the scars remained. My dad started therapy, his apologies growing more real. "I didn't see you, Zoe," he said one night, his voice shaky as we sat in their garden. "I was wrong." My mom gave me a box of my old science fair medals, tears in her eyes. "I kept these," she said. "I always hoped you'd shine." Clara and I started small coffee dates, short talks, awkward but honest. She admitted she'd been jealous, raised to think she was the only star. "I want to be sisters again," she said, her voice breaking. I nodded, open but careful, the wounds still fresh. A year after the wedding, we hosted a big party at our waterfront home. My FBI team, Lucas's family, Mia, even some cousins who'd shown real care, like Daniel, who'd become an unexpected ally. Laughter filled the air, the sunset painting the bay gold. I realized family isn't just blood. It's who sees you, loves you, lifts you up. As Lucas held me in our kitchen, his arms warm, I felt whole. "Happy?" he asked, his voice soft. "More than ever," I said, smiling. "Not perfect, but real." If you face toxic family ties or hidden dangers, know your worth isn't in others' eyes. Boundaries are power, and your chosen family can be your strength. Have you healed family bonds with limits? Found peace in a new circle? Share below. Your story could light someone's path. Like and follow if this hit home, and thanks for joining this community of courage and growth.